So that's why I had this part on my slide. You know, when you talk about the post 80s and the post 90s, anyone know what I refer to? Post 80s and post 90s? People who were born in the 80s and the 90s. So I am the post 70s, so I'm not the 80s, but the 90s. But you know, when you think of them in China, you know, these are some of the things that we are seeing with our social listening services online. You see that, you know, well, I listed Guangdong, where Guangzhou is located and very close to Hong Kong. Well, a simple fact is because Guangdong has the largest population in China, so it's the largest province in China. It has 100 billion over, right, in China. So, but when you think of these customers, you know, they love to talk about traveling. We talk a lot about. They love to talk about sports. A gentleman, you know, Leon, sit on my table. He has something about sports and games. So. Good news for him. We also like to talk about freedom a lot online. So you know, these are, you know, their hobbies and favorite topics online. So I'm going to skip because of time concern, but feel free to talk to me later on. But you know, I want to go to the next two parts. So how other advertisers are using social media in China to help their business. So let me give a few examples. You know, we all talk about integrated marketing communications. So I want to give an example that Maybelline did in China. You know, they do it very well, actually. So they launched a campaign with advertising on, you know, different things like banners and portal sites. But then they also did something on the social media. And what is interesting is in the past, people have been launching all these fragmented campaigns. You know, you had an advertising video pre-roll, for example, and then you had social media and had e-commerce. They're all fragmented. They're not interrelated. So now, you know, with Maybelline, a lot of advertisers are actually venturing this space, what we call the POE model, the pay on earn media, and they combine it all together. And this is the result, right? You can actually literally compare, you know, different conversions, if you will, success rate with, you know, your Weibo, with your other display ad platforms. So more and more people use that. And then the other case is Roger talked about Xiaomi, the cell phone. So, you know, we talk about the cheaper version for the Xiaomi case in Mark's presentation. But the case that I'm referring to here is the more higher end product. It's about 350 Australian dollars, which is 2,000 RMB. So they have this successful case last year in December. Basically, they sold 50,000 handsets within 5 minutes. So if you did the calculation, that's $60 million in 5 minutes. That's based off of Weibo. And because of the kind of the word of mouth impact, you know, I talk about, so because we provide a lot of data, so I show you one of these, you know, 54% of the Sina Weibo users. So if you did the math, you know, they have about 500 million users. So that's roughly about maybe 120 million people actually saw the thing on Weibo, and then actually 233 million, you know, impressions got kind of accumulated, and then they got the $60 million sales. So it's really, really neat. And then now most people also are still doing TV advertising. And so one of the cases in China, this is a Chinese case. A drink or a beverage manufacturer called Wahaha. They originated from Hangzhou. And they started this new drink called Gewasi. Nobody knows. I still don't know what they are till this day, even if I'm a Chinese. But you know, they did a very successful campaign, you know, on social media and try to combine with their TV sponsorship and advertising. So this is another way to go. You know, you can literally look at your TV responses, you know, on the social Weibo and use Weibo data to really analyze how successful your TV campaigns was. So, for example, for this case, you know, their brand awareness actually got lifted, but you know, likeliness actually decreased in some cases. You know, some provinces people actually hate that. The commercial is confusing. You know, I still don't know what the drink is. You know, and then purchase of intent increase. So it's kind of mixed, but you know, you look at these data, you make decisions. I'm gonna see this one. Do and don'ts. You know. We mentioned the McDonald's case. So to put into perspective or comparison, KFC also ran into troubles. And food safety is always a concern in China. So KFC and McDonald's actually took a very different route, maybe because McDonald's took Alistair's suggestions. You know, KFC took a very official claim approach. So it's like when they got reported with their kind of food safety issues, they say, nope, we work with all the legitimate, you know, agencies, and we pay a lot of attention to our food safety and blah, blah, blah. It's the official claim, the official line. People hated it. I show you the picture. 99% of the comments were negative. So not as McDonald's case, I have McDonald's charts. So just to kind of complement what Alistair shared, 70% of the customers online actually talk about very good things about McDonald's, and they also started one of the Weibo accounts actually started off with a voting. The question was literally, do you trust CCTV more or do you trust McDonald's more? And here's the result: most people trust McDonald's more than CCTV actually. No surprise. That's why I'm not too concerned about Starbucks. They just got reported on CCTV 2 days ago by charging 27 RMB for a coffee latte. So I talk about the WeChat, that people are using WeChat for CRM. So this is my China Merchant Bank example, very good. But another great example of clients of ours, Coca-Cola. I think I'm not sure if they did it also in the Australian market. They did it in multiple markets across the globe. It's called the Share a Coke campaign. You heard of that? So like in the US, you will be able to print your name, like my name, Calvin, on the bottle, right? And then you share with your friend. So when it comes to China, the Coca-Cola China team actually was asked by the global team to do the same, replicate the same thing, just go. But the China team thought about it. Okay, there are many Chinese people, first of all, and Chinese names are very different from the English names. You easily find Calvins, right, in English, and then you can just share with other Calvins. But in China, you don't normally share names with others, especially with your surname, and it's so complex. So Coca-Cola or the agency and them think of a very smart way of doing it. Instead of doing the actual Chinese name, they came up with the idea of having nicknames. And when you say nicknames, this is very unique to social media. In China, we have nicknames for everything because of the Chinese language. So for example, a lot of us talk about, and Ava talk about that, we use Weibo or WeChat as a channel to kind of comment on things happening in the country, politically as well. So, one of the political Politburo members was called Zhou Yongkang. And because of his last name Kang, so there's a brand called Kang Shifu or Master Kong, if you know them. They provide beverages from Taiwan. And so Chinese consumers will use Master Kong noodles to refer to that Chinese officials. So same thing basically. So if you think of Coca-Cola, maybe they will think of other things, So and then maybe when you think of your friend, you'll think of other things. So maybe this guy is an IT expert, IT geek. Maybe the other guy is your next door girl, for example. Like all these Chinese nicknames, they use it to print on the bottles. But Coca-Cola had an issue or a challenge. When they wanted to do this, they don't know what other nicknames would be popular. And this is, again, coming to the prediction thing. So we helped them. They gave us a list of 300 nicknames that they think would be very popular in China. And so we ran the data for them across all the Weibo platforms and look at which words get transferred, if you will, further and deeper. So and then we gave them back a list of 100 names. And then they used those 100 names to print on the bottles, and they were hugely successful. And let me give you an example of how successful they are. So Coca-Cola actually worked with a charity on sharing some of the Cokes. So a campaign that they launched in June, day one, they were able to sell. So when I say sell, they donated the money back to that charity. So they were able to sell 300 bottles in 1 hour within the first day. And then 500 bottles in 30 minutes, second day, 500 bottles in 5 minutes in the day 3, and then day 4, 300 bottles in 1 minute. So, you think of the space. And with the Xiaomi case and with the Coca-Cola case, I hope I share the message, very clear and loudly. If you have your social media combined with your mobile commerce or e-commerce, it's going to be very successful. You got to think very, very carefully about it. And if you launch it, it could be huge, right? Think about the $16 million that Xiaomi was able to get. And then, okay, last, hopefully uses 2 minutes to share about tourism a little bit. So we work with not too many yet, to be honest. I would love to work with more of you if you're coming to China to promote your business. But we work with Visit California, for example, for their campaigns in Eastern China. So we basically work across with a lot of brands in the Weibo and WeChat and all the other social media. So one of the things that I look at is I put up a list of Weibo accounts in China, and I find that there were 5 tourism boards that are coming from Australia and New Zealand backgrounds. And you guys are doing actually pretty well, I would say. Out of the top 20 Weibo accounts that Chinese Weibo users are following, 5 of them are coming from this region. So I think it's actually good. You got some good attention. Then what do? So I know also some of you coming from the airline industries. Hopefully, this will be useful. So when you look at different airlines, Chinese consumers have different point of view to them, and then you think about, okay, when you want to market to the Chinese consumer, which are the things that you want to market? So I took my CX flight, Cathay Pacific. So they're all very well known for their services on in-flight entertainment, and they launch a lot of new services. So maybe when you think of your promotion, you can actually use Weibo when people how do they talk about your brand, your airlines, and then use those words would get you further. And then for California's case, to summarize, they were successful because of a few things. One thing, you ought to think of your Weibo tweeting time. It has to be coincide with the user's online time. So you want to look at this chart. The blue one is actually the participants' comment time, so the time that they post their comments. And then the yellow lines is the Visit California posting time. So you see some areas where they have improvement, room for improvements. When they are posting a lot during that 7 to 9 p.m., people are not very active, so they might want to adjust their kind of posting time. And then they also make use of 3 other things that they did very well. Use a celebrity is always good, but then think carefully about the celebrity, right? So in this case, they use Gao Yuanyuan, which is a local from Beijing. So they are very popular because of Gao Yuanyuan. And then share a lot of our stories about their own independent traveling story. So again, going back to the point earlier. And then the other one that they use is Chinese consumers love incentives and lucky draws type of thing. So, Visit California did a lucky draw. So if you subscribe to their Weibo, you tweet a post, and then you are able to, or you are eligible for going into the lucky draw, and then you got a prize to go to California with your parents, for example. So that would be very helpful. So because of time, so I think I'm a little bit rushing, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you have any other questions, feel free to ask, or we can talk more about during lunch.